Yeah, I looked at the film, watched it and just saw, about 3/4 of good football. And we know that we have to finish with consistency. And we know that it's got to continue to show up, particularly in those critical moments. And just, really cleaning up things in our kicking game. It was not a great day for us in terms of just the placement and the, our field goals, and all those things. So something that we just talked about as a group, and finishing with the ball right there. We're trying to get ourselves in a better advantageous field goal there at the end. Finishing on that ball, and continuing to get us closer so we can, finish the games that way. And the players know that, and they know that we can continue to expect ourselves to play football where we're in a 2-minute or 4-minute situation at the end of these games, and to get the execution and the finish that we want to get as a group. So we all feel the same about it, and we're focused on this week and ready to get back to work.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that Chuba attacked the hole and the way the defense reacted to it, it seemed like the entire premise of it was to knock the ball out. How much do you guys practice that during the week? It's just like that scenario.
It's every play. It's every time we run the ball, every skill player that touches it, our defense, they work on attacking the ball. It's an emphasis as a group. So we expect it every down, not just in those situations. And we know those situations are critical to, lock it up and finish with it. But it's a habit thing, and that's something that we, get on top of our guys for challenging each other, because we train ourselves how to be really, really good with our locket, our high and tight, and using that extra hand to pull it in.
Are you anticipating getting Coker and JT Sanders back this week?
That's the hope, yes. And so they both have a couple of big days, today and tomorrow, to evaluate where they're at, and the hope is to get them back up this week.
Dave, I know this offseason you guys went very heavy on adjusting the offense and building it in your image. Defensively, it just kind of seems like the run defense can't make regular stops. What do you think the issue is there outside of just technique?
Yeah, just owning our leverage. And, when you talk about the run game, it's the full group, because everyone's got a responsibility and a fit, and it works all the way across the board. And I think that when you trust that everyone's doing their job and in their gap, then you don't have to jump out of yours. Stay in your gap, own your leverage. The plays will come back to you if we all work together. And it's the discipline of play in and play out, particularly at the end where, the Bucs were committed to running the ball right there, in the fourth quarter. And that's where they started to get a lot of their breakout plays and yards, and to just keep doing the right thing, do right longer. That's been the message for our group, and that's something that we got to own.
The players have been very quick to not blame the scheme as much as their individual teammates. And what are you seeing on film from the discipline standpoint that you're talking about?
Yeah, just inconsistency. We just we have to have the same execution, play in and play out, and that's really what it comes down to.
Dave, Sam Franklin went to the opposing locker room after the game. I know we asked about this yesterday, and you didn't have much information on it. Do you have any expanded clarity on what happened there?
Just know that we talked about it. He and I, sat down this morning and just had that conversation. He'll be the first to tell you that he shouldn't do that. That it was a mistake. And we talked about just wanting to have passion, wanting to have edge, and knowing where to toe that edge, and then come back to us, celebrate with us, talk to our teammates, keep our energy going on our side. We don't have to give the opponent anything, and that's one of those things too.
You saw the official explanation for why they called Thielen out of bounds or not possession at the end.
Yeah.
On that catch. One of the things was the number of camera angles. I know. Is that something the stadium controls, or is that something you guys are looking into? Or
No, I'm not really, sure on all that. I just know from an officiating standpoint, if they call it incomplete and they don't have conclusive evidence to flip it, it's hard, and they go with their call, and that's the decision they made in that situation, and I think if they'd have called it a touchdown, it would have resulted that way for us, where there wouldn't have been enough angles to flip it, and they would have stayed with the touchdown call there.
Dave, what are you seeing from Bryce down the stretch? It's been a few games now that he's led some late important drives for the touchdown there, the toss to Thielen. What are you seeing from his confidence level terms of late game operation?
Yeah, just decisiveness and having a plan, things that we talk about through the week that come alive on game day. And they've been in these critical, situations for the last 2 weeks for sure. And then going back to the Saints game, but just operating within the system and the tools that the guys are ready for to apply given those specific third and fourth and critical types of situations. And so just a great job of taking those conversations, taking the practice reps and then applying them to, high pressure situations which don't bother him. He just plays ball, So I love just how decisive and the mechanics of all those things have been.
Once you were able to go back and watch the tape as well, what did you see from what Shaw gave you, and what could you kind of provide there?
Shaw took advantage of an opportunity. He made tackles. He owned his leverage for the most part. There were things that he still has to clean up. He had an opportunity on an interception, and he made it. And he came up with the ball. Really proud of that. Proud of him just taking advantage of another opportunity he had a couple weeks ago, and then Dane got a shot in there. And so I was really proud of Shaw just, really being focused in on the week and then for it to show up on game day.
Tommy's had kind of a rough year with injuries and being out of the lineup, and it seemed like he really kind of broke out yesterday. What has he brought to the offense over the last couple of weeks, and where are you seeing him kind of start to kind of get on the right track?
Yeah, first thing I'll say about Tommy is this is a really conscientious football player. He takes notes. He's like always he's snapping shots of our notes on the screen, just making sure he's on top of all that stuff. So it's a great thing for him. You got JT in there who sees, these guys who are just so into it. And so I would say that first and foremost, just the professionalism, the way he prepares. And then he plays hard, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, he plays the game right. He plays it full speed. He plays it physical and aggressive. And I was really happy to just see him make some plays, breaking tackles down the field, critical third downs, the scramble reaction where he and Bryce just seem to be on the same page with that. So those things have been great. So I think just those couple of things, the speed of play, and how he approaches his week.
Dave, several players yesterday said something along the lines of, got to learn how to win close games. Based on your experience in Seattle and Tampa, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's habits. It's the habits of finishing everything we do, and it's all week long. It's today. It's going through the film, the grades, taking the input, applying it to your week, taking care of your body early on in the week, coming off of the game. It's all these processes that you have to see through. It's a habit, and it becomes who you are. It's about practices, and it's about, finishing the drills full speed, finishing to the ball. Everybody uncovering on the offense and covering down, chasing the ball, defensively, rallying to the ball, all being there and visualizing the tackles, even though we're not going, full tackling during practice. But it's all the finish of the plays and those habits. It's the 2-minute situations we do in our walkthroughs, taking it all the way down to those critical situations and just owning that when we're in these situations, the execution is the same, guys. You've been here. You've taken yourself to this finished process. So let's just let it happen. Let's let it come to life in games.
Following up on David's question, this idea that the NFL's broadcast partners have an uneven number of cameras at each game. Did you run into that at all while you were at Seattle? And do you think there should be a standard across the league that each game has the same number of cameras and angles?
I think equity is important, but again, I haven't really, dove into that fully. I just know in primetime games, there's going to be way more cameras available, just because of the nature of the coverage and all that. And so there's advantages and disadvantages to that. So it works both ways, where sometimes you may have a big play, but because of a primetime game, you have all these other angles, and it could take it away because you see exactly what's happening. So I know it can go both ways.
Dave, what was your thoughts on Jonathan Brooks? How do you grade out with your watching the film?
I thought it was a great step from the first week to the second in terms of his confidence. You saw him break a couple of tackles, finishing runs aggressively, some of those things. So I was really pleased with the way that he just took another step. And that's all we expect is just weekly improvement, the daily improvement, just dialing yourself into the protection plan, the runs, how we're trying to press the runs and those things like that. So another great step for Jonathan.
Kind of building off of that, I know he's only played a couple of weeks. But you talked early on with this rookie class about being willing to take your lumps so you see it pay off down the road. Have you started to see that turn in some of these guys?
It's been happening, yeah. It's been happening for weeks now. Guys that just have been, thrown out there to play that we're counting on with Xavier, with Coker, with Trevin on the other side, and Shaw coming in and getting another chance, So we're seeing these things pay dividends down the road as we continue to play and they keep stacking more football.
Any concern with the number of drop passes?
No concern. Just guys that we're counting on. And that's. I think it's really important as coaches that we just, extend confidence in these guys to say, hey, we're going to come back to you. And whether it's the pass game, whether it's Eddie, and just like Eddie, we're going to be in these situations game. We know you'll nail it. He's been so consistent. Let's just be you, be who you are. So we count on those guys to just show back up and continue to make plays.
Any commonality in the red zone struggles there that you feel like you really need to focus on?
I think it's just a matter of chemistry. I think it's time on task, some near misses for 2 weeks. So these are certainly things that we have to just hone in on throughout the week as we're looking at it and make sure that we're on the exact same page. When you talk about red zone passes, these are landmark throws. They're going to spots. You're throwing to spots. You're throwing to areas within these concepts. And those are the things that we have to just continue to improve on.
I think when you came here, you said that you tried to take a blank slate with just about everybody who was here.
Yeah.
What was kind of your early impressions of Eddie, and how have those changed, if they have at all, over the course of these 11, 12 games?
Yeah, I think just taking in consideration his process, the way he approaches every kick, and just the consistency of it. I think that's a trait of all the kickers, or that I've been around. But just really appreciating that, the way he's gone about his work, and the way he's made himself available. So nothing has changed for me in that regard. Is just continue to take your approach and trust the fact that your process will lead to good success.
Made himself available how?
Oh, just in practice. I'm just saying, just kicking, being out there, being available.
You obviously made the move to Shaw this past week. Do you anticipate any major shakeups in the lineup this week on defense?
No, not right now.
Is Bryce QB1?
Yes. Bryce will be playing in Philly this week.
Any injury updates that you know about?
Sullivan.
Sullivan had a pretty significant knee injury, so there's going to be he's going to be out for a while there. Anybody else that came off of the injury report right now? And again, we talked about JT, we talked about Coker, big couple of days to evaluate them, to see where they're at, see if we can get them back out there on Wednesday running around. Nick Scott he looked great last week, so another guy that we got to take a look at. And then again, with Nick, it's a matter of, the depth chart and all that, so conversations we're going to have.